Shalom and welcome to On the House, the podcast where industry experts and professionals discuss real estate in Israel. I'm your host, Debbie Goldfisher, real estate agent, founder and editor-in-chief of buyitinisrael.com. Join us as we explore market trends, legal and tax issues, purchasing tips, neighborhoods throughout Israel, and much more. All this is On the House, helping you make the right move. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the 5th episode of our 2nd season of On the House, which is dedicated to purchasing new construction in Israel. I took a little break between Pesach, the birth of a grandchild, a few boys in the army, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaTzmaut, and the rolling out of some big features on the Bayit in Israel website. Make sure to check them out. And now, thankfully, I'm back with some new energy. Today, we will continue on our journey of purchasing off-plan. As you may recall, we learned together about purchasing from a developer. We talked about how to find the right project, how to select the most suitable unit and understand what you're buying, the legal aspects and the risks of buying off plan. And now, after all that, you've made the selection, you've gone to contract, and the deal is closed. You've signed an agreement, made the first payment, and even had a l'chaim. What happens now? For this episode, I'm honored to host a special guest, someone who is dear to my heart, my very own sister, Gabi Hammer. Hopefully, we'll get through the next 45 minutes without an argument, and we'll learn together what happens at this stage of the buying process. Gabi is a project manager who assists buyers, in particular those who are abroad, from purchasing through possession and beyond. Besides managing clients' apartments that are under construction, Gabi also manages the properties of the clients who are out of the country, dealing with everything from tenants, maintenance, structural issues, insurance, and cleaning services. She also happens to run an amazing Pesach program in Zichron Yaakov, but we'll leave that for another episode. Over the years, I've recommended Gabi to countless clients, and the warm and positive feedback I receive is always such a pleasure. I tell my clients you don't need to hire anyone for this stage, but you'll be so happy if you do. You will save yourselves a tremendous amount of headache, time, and money, in particular if you're not in the country. So, Gabi, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know how busy you are between your businesses and your beautiful family, Bli Ayin Hara, so I really appreciate the time that you're making for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've already said you're welcome. Okay. It's a pleasure. How many? Yes, it's a pleasure.
I said it would be a miracle if we get through this without an argument. Okay, so Gabi, before we argue any more, let's talk about what happens. Somebody has signed a purchase agreement and they've been recommended to be in touch with you. They have in their hand, when they signed the agreement, the developer gave them a list of suppliers with all the supplies that they are supposed to be getting in their apartment. They call you, they don't understand what this is about. What do you do with this?
Wow. Okay. So there's so many things to know from the beginning. What stage of purchase did they buy the apartment? If the apartment is literally on paper, there is nothing started yet of the project. So there is a lot more time. You're not going to be so pressured to start choosing things. Yes, you are going to have to choose, but it is a good time to buy on paper because you have more options to choose. If you're buying something that's already in the middle of construction, we'll probably have to work much quicker to choose the things for the apartment.
Assuming that they haven't been selected yet.
Yeah, so we'll have to go through that. What things? In that Mifrat Techni, which is the technical specifications that come with the apartment, there will be the kitchen, the flooring, the bathrooms, maybe bathroom cabinets, the electrical work, air conditioning. Some apartments come with air conditioning. It's all going to come into a folder, and each section has the supplier or suppliers that Kablan, that contractor, is working with. Together we'll sit, and depending on the time restraints that the clients have, let's just say they bought an apartment, for argument's sake, in Yerushalayim, and the kitchen suppliers are in Rishon LeZion, maybe one in Jerusalem, maybe one in Tel Aviv. We'll choose one of them to go to.
You can only work with one of the suppliers?
You can go to all three and see what they're offering, but you can't work with all three. You have to choose one of them. You can go to all three of them to have a look, but it's pretty much going to be the same basic design. Now, again, it does depend on someone's budget. If they want to add money in, if they want to just take the standard.
So you're given 3 suppliers. You go with the client to 1 or 2 or 3 of them, and they show you what they're giving them for the price that they've paid.
Yes.
They're showing them the standard option. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Then they
and as the standard usually, what's it usually like?
It really depends. It really, really depends on the contractor. For example, the last apartment I did was a very, very basic kitchen. I think it was 11 meters, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, because it's running. The 11 is the running meters on the bottom and the running meters on the top, including the sink, including the space for the oven. But it could be, again, it depends on someone's needs. Is it a holiday apartment and they don't want to add in so much money, or someone that really wants to think and give it a lot of thought of what they want? We'll first take the design of the kitchen contractor, see what they recommend, because they do have interior designers in the kitchen. They will come up with a plan and tell them it costs X amount of money if you want to add in money to our kitchen design. It could be the client, and we've had this before, doesn't want to take the kitchen at all. And in which case I'll go with them to an interior designer. I have a few that I've worked with, and they will draw up a plan for them and help them with the design of the kitchen.
So with regards to the kitchen, there are basically, if I've understood correctly, there are 3 possibilities. You either go to the standard contractor and take what he's offering. You stay with the standard contractor and upgrade what he's giving with him.
Correct.
Or you don't go with him and you go with somebody else, an outsider completely.
Yes.
In that case, do you get some kind of a credit, or do you get penalized? Are you allowed to do that according to the kablan? How does that work?
Again, every kablan, every contractor works differently. There are some contractors that you are required to take their kitchen. Most will give a credit. If you don't take their kitchen at all, they'll give you some kind of credit. You're not talking a lot of money here.
It's not worth what it would cost to put in a new kitchen.
Exactly, yes.
And did they allow the workmen to come in during the construction phase and build?
You will only be allowed to put your kitchen in once you've got the keys for the kitchen.
So that's important. If you're in a hurry to take possession and move into the apartment, then it will be quicker to work with the contractors that are with the developer.
Yeah, most times. Sometimes not. Sometimes not, but most times. Also, if you're buying it at the end, then the kitchen's probably already going to be in. Right. Or they're ready to put something in.
Well, the kitchen is divided up. That there's cabinets, there are countertops, there are sinks and faucets.
So there was one other thing I wanted to add in, is that the electrical work. The standard that the kablan usually gives is very limiting on the electrical work in the kitchen. I'm only talking about the kitchen right now, not the rest of the apartment. And with that, if you're buying an apartment early on in the game, you can add in more electrical points with the kablan. That being said, people sometimes panic, oh, I didn't add in electrical points at the beginning. You can always add in afterwards. They won't put in the backsplash, and then you get an electrician afterwards, and they'll add in the extra points.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's never.
We're talking about plugs. sockets, like to put.
To plug in appliances.
Lighting, I guess, is a different issue, which we'll come to.
Yes.
And what about, how do you say, like 3-phase?
Electricity?
Yeah.
3-phase. Most, I really haven't in the last few years come across any kablan that has not put in the 3-phase electricity.
Sorry, you need the 3-phase electricity for the heavier appliances, like the ovens.
Nowadays, I mean, all the kablan that I've seen the last few years have been putting in the 3-phase for the induction stove. They put in 3-phase for the washer and dryer.
Right. Never assume. You always have to ask, and you go through that would be stated in the mifrat techni, in the technical specification.
But that's the electrical part of, like, we're starting with the kitchen, the electrical stuff. We'll go through all the apartment, how many plugs are in each bedroom, what's in the bathrooms, what's in the kitchen. We'll go through that. If a client is happy with what they're supplying, we'll leave it. Usually the kitchen is the place where you want to add in points. Sometimes people want to add in speakers. They know they're going to want to put in a drop ceiling. That would be something different. But a lot of these things we can do afterwards. We don't need to do it with...
Don't have to panic.
You don't have to do it with a kablan.
Right. We spoke about the cabinets. Yeah. What about the countertops and the...
So that goes... So if the person goes with the basic from the kablan, then we'll go to the shayish. The shayish is separately the countertop. You'll go pick out the shayish. They give you very, very limited option. Maybe 3 colors. the cheapest version.
Most basic.
Yes.
Right.
If you don't take that, you'll get a credit and then you can add in. A person that is not going to take the kitchen at all from the kablan, I will advise them not to take anything. Just take the credit for the countertop and for the kitchen, and then we'll do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we have sinks and faucets.
So that goes again with the bath.
We'll come to the bathroom stuff.
Yeah. So the kitchen, the sink for the kitchen will usually be with the sink. It will be from the same company that's supplying the bathroom stuff, the tiles, the sink.
Understood. Yeah. Okay. So the kitchen is the most important thing. And again, you can go to the contractor of the developer, or you can work with an outside interior designer who can help you customize, plan, and then...
Most importantly is we can do this. It sounds very daunting. It's probably, someone's probably thinking, wow, this is so much. It is possible to do this if a person has a lot of energy within a week or two. You can actually go around to all the suppliers and meet with them, meet with the interior designer. Yes, it will take the interior designer some time to build up a plan, but let's just put the kitchen aside. You can do everything in a few days.
Mm-hmm. From the moment that somebody contracts with you, you take the file and you coordinate all the appointments and the meetings?
Yeah, everything.
Right. And everything. It's all possible within a week or two?
Yes.
Right. Obviously, you speak the language as well. This is something that somebody would have that doesn't speak English, Hebrew would have a hard time doing on their own. And I'm sure these people already are familiar with you. They know you and
the supplies. Again, it depends on the kablan. Every kablan, you could be working with some random ceramic place in Ramla.
Mm-hmm.
So no, not every supplier knows who I am, but that's fine. You make an appointment. They know, they have a file for every single apartment. They know who's coming. Everything's written down and signed.
It's pretty much the same process with all the suppliers.
Doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
Understood. Okay. And if somebody says from the outset, I don't want any of the standard, like, do they have to show up? Do they have to go to these meetings? Do they have to do anything?
With what? With the kitchen?
With any of the...
No,
if they say, I want to upgrade the entire apartment.
That's much more complicated. You do have to take... Most places, you do have to pick your tiles from one of the supplies that they're giving.
I see.
I've never personally worked with a kablan that says you can take the apartment as is. Mm-hmm. It could be you're the real estate agent. If a kablan sells an apartment as is, you take the keys and then you finish it yourself.
Right, that's quite unusual. It's usually for very high-end apartments where the client wants to customize it to a very high end, right, or where they've held something till the end and they haven't made the selections and they say you can buy it as is. But right, you're right.
So I actually I don't work with that. I don't work with those clients,
right? Because
they would be taking probably a high-end architect, interior designer to do everything for them. I'm more of an in-between person.
Great. Somebody who's not looking for the high end but doesn't want to take necessarily all the standards. They want to customize and upgrade. Okay, so tell us a bit about the floors and the tiles, the bathroom tiles and the other options.
So the floor, let's start with the flooring of the house. That would be probably the most important thing to pick at the beginning, because once the apartment is starting to be built, once the actual apartment the walls are up, the first thing that goes in after that are the floors.
Right.
And that's the first thing they're probably going to ask that you need to pick. Again, usually there's 2 suppliers that you can go to. We'll see which one is the closest. They have pretty much the same, not just quality, the same choices, very similar. Maybe.
And how many options do you usually get?
You usually get 3 options, sometimes 4. Nowadays, the standard is much higher than it used to be.
Right.
When I bought my home 30 years ago, the standard was very poor. The standard I'm seeing now is you can work with it,
right? And
you don't need to add in. The only thing that people do have to add in is they still have this very weird thing in Israel where they only build up. They only lay the tiles 3/4 of the wall up and not to the ceiling.
We're talking about the bathrooms.
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently, that's to let the walls breathe.
I don't know, but most of my clients, we tile to the ceiling.
So in such a case, you have to order extra tiles. You have to pay for the tiles and the labor as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Going back to the floors, you say it's the most important thing to select. One of the reasons it's most important as well is because it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the house. The color of the floor and the style of the floor can set the tone for the furniture, for the paint of the walls, for the style, for the kitchen. So you really have to know what floors you're going to have in order to make all the other choices.
Right.
Or to work the other way, if you know what you want, then you have to pick the right floor that's going to coordinate.
Yeah.
So we have the kitchen, we have the floors, the bathroom. So you spoke briefly about the bathroom tiles. Tell us a bit about the selections and the other bathroom fittings and fixtures.
So usually it's one place that has the ceramics, and we'll pick the ceramics from there. Sometimes they also have the bathroom faucets. Not always. Sometimes each place is different. Sometimes the kitchen faucets are with the Shyish place, the countertops. Everything is written down in that Mifrat Techni. So we will see what's on offer, what tiles, if they're happy with the colors and with the taps for the sinks. Usually the bathroom, what are they called? I call it a shida, the bathroom cabinet with the sink. They're giving that nowadays. It's very standard. If you want a vanity, yes, thank you. My English and Hebrew are neither good. The vanities, that's going to be in a different place.
So it sounds like, as you said, it can be done within a week or two, but it's a job. In other words, if you buy an apartment and you come here, like it's going to be work.
Right.
It's really a job.
However, let's just say that someone isn't here. Someone does not have time to do this. I have done this before. I've done it a number of times for the person. We will actually do it on WhatsApp. We'll WhatsApp. I will pick the colors for them, ask them what colors they like. Sometimes we can even find the tiles online. They can look at them online. Amazing. It's not something that is unheard of.
Right. But unless you're really, really picky and particular about what you want, it can be done remotely.
So, yeah.
Right. But for those people who do come and they want to be part of this, it's a job. I tell people you can't come for a week, go to a hotel for 3 nights and think you're going to get this done as well. It's really a job. You have to take time out, but it's a worthwhile investment because in the end you're customizing your home from the very, very beginning and you get what you want.
Right. And you do need, the biggest thing is you need energy because it's tiring to run around from one supply to the next, but you can do it.
Sure.
We always take a lunch break and we get ourselves sandwiches and drinks in the middle to re-energize, and we do it.
Sounds like fun. And also, I mean, I know, and I've heard myself firsthand from a lot of clients, it's chemistry. You know, you get to know people, you spend a lot of time with them, and you got to get along well. So you're good at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke about the deadlines briefly. Like, if you, as you said, it depends very much that on what stage of construction they're making the purchase. If somebody's making it and the deadlines are very close or they've been missed, what happens?
If the deadlines have been missed, basically, there isn't much we could do. It's happened a lot of times. People have bought apartments, the floors are already in. That's fine.
That's fine.
So we know the floors are grey, or the floors are a light brown, or the floors are what you know. Nowadays, it's basically between the greys and the
greys are the fashion.
Yeah,
right. I guess the worst comes to the very worst is they can change the floors when they take possession.
Yeah, which is very expensive.
It's very expensive and unusual.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. No one should panic. And also, when they're buying the apartment, they know then that the floors are in. So
correct. It's not a surprise.
Now, you asked if the deadline is coming up close.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will have to work on it very quickly. Very quickly. And it's doable. We'll phone up, we'll make an appointment.
Right.
And we'll go.
Right. This, by the way, is a very important reason to realize why the earlier you buy something, not only is it usually the cheapest, but you get the most customization. As the time goes on, prices go up and you have less choices, if any. So it's another good reason to get in at an early stage. Okay, so we spoke about taking the standard, we spoke about the options, we spoke about coordinating with the suppliers. What happens if someone comes and says, this is the apartment I want, but I want to make some structural changes. I want to take 2 bedrooms and make them into one. I want to make the master bathroom with a bath instead of a shower. I want to do some structural changes that are not in the plan. How does that work?
So we'd have to sit with Kablan, with his Mahandes, which is his engineer, and first of all find out if it's possible to knock down that wall in the apartment, because some of the walls are structurally, they're supporting walls that cannot be knocked down. if they can be knocked down, they're going to have to price. They will sit there and work out exactly how much it's going to cost the client to knock down that wall, to move the piping, to add in electricity, to make any change.
Do they all allow this to even happen?
It really depends on the kablan.
Because I know some kablanim have said, no, we don't make any changes.
So really, again, it depends.
And some say we will. But if this is what you want and the kablan allows it, the contractor allows it, chances are is that it's worth doing it at this stage because it will work out a lot more expensive and a lot messier to do it after you get a brand new apartment. It's a shame to have to start pulling down walls when you've taken possession of a brand new, freshly painted apartment. So
together we'll make sure that everything is signed, the price is written down, and during the construction we are following on that everything is done according to what we had signed on.
Great. And this includes moving electrical points, moving water points, adding, taking away, etc.
Yes.
Right. And what if they say we're willing to do it, but we need architectural plans? In other words, we can't just rely on you telling us you want to move the walls a meter from here or 80 centimeters from there. If they need a structural architectural plans, what would you do?
We'd have to go to someone. I work with the client that can make some changes, but isn't. If someone already has big plans, I would advise them to go with an architect.
Okay, so that's a really important point, that the service that you give is really for standard plus clients who are not looking for major changes, not looking for very high end, like just to work with what you're given, which by the way is good quality. It's not like you're getting cheap rubbish, you're paying a lot of money. But if you want like major customization and high end finishings, then you work with a different sort of designer architect. And we're going to interview one of those in the coming months. I would suggest that.
I'm very, very honest when I meet with people. If I feel that it's something that is not out of my league, but it's something that I think they'd be better off with someone, an architect or a designer that for everything in their apartment, I'll tell them.
Right, not
it's
for
fine.
You. Good for you.
I do a lot of hand holding because a lot of people from overseas don't understand the Israeli system. Like you said, they don't speak the language, and I will hold hands with them throughout the whole process.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, so let's talk about people that are abroad. We already understand that you work with many people that are abroad, that people that don't understand the language, people that don't have the time to be here. You said that you can work with them remotely. They make all the selections. And then what happens? They're still not in the country. You know, there's a process that can take place over another 2 to 3 years. Are you in the picture? Are you checking up on things? Are you following up? Like, what's your role?
So, yes, as I said, I handhold. If you recall, the last few years have been quite challenging in Israel. First, we had Corona, where people were actually locked out of the country for a year and a half. People had bought homes and they weren't able to come. But the building was continuing. I did everything. And if they weren't able to come, we did things on WhatsApp and the video.
Amazing.
Yes. And
you managed.
This has nothing to do with a contractor, but I even had a place renovated for someone when they weren't here. They didn't see anything.
That was my client. Remember?
Yes, right? I didn't pick. They didn't see anything.
Yeah,
we picked.
They bought
everything.
it during COVID without seeing, and they renovated it without seeing.
Yes,
and they're very happy.
They love it. They absolutely love it.
They're lovely people.
They thank me every single time they come.
So nice.
So it's very, very possible nowadays.
That was one of the few times I sold something without showing it to the client, and I was very nervous about it. But thankfully, they were very happy.
They're very happy. And the technology nowadays really allows you to do things without actually being there. It's possible.
Now if you are very, very, very particular and like super detail oriented, then it's probably not for you because it's too much reliance on somebody else.
Right.
But if you trust somebody like Gabi and you're willing to work, with them and trust them, then it can work beautifully.
It's possible. It's
totally
possible. I have accepted the keys many times for people that have not been able to be here at the end to go through everything.
Fantastic.
Many times.
Good for you. Fantastic. Let's talk about people who are in Israel. Okay. They speak the language. They're here on the land. They're here in the country. They somewhat understand the culture. Do they need somebody like you? What would they need to hire somebody like you?
You know something? There are people that could. I mean, there are definitely people that don't need me. There are people that are very scared of anything to do with building. They're just they just have a fear of picking things out, of dealing with Israeli store owners.
Being taken for a ride.
That plus they don't know where to start with all this.
Right.
So
it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, I could definitely help them with that for sure.
And I assume a large part of your role as well is negotiations, because there's a lot of purchasing and upgrading and changing and working with suppliers and contractors, and you have to fix prices.
Yeah, you do. But it's I have to be honest with you, it's much harder. You can negotiate a little bit, but when you're dealing with the Kablan suppliers, there's not much room for negotiation.
You've kind of got your hands tied behind
you can
your back.
definitely try, and they'll definitely go down, but it's a bit of a game. But there's not much leeway. Once you start having to pick things out like air conditioning and things like that, yes, then you have...
Okay, so let's move on now. So throughout the process, you kind of touched on this, but I want to make sure I understood correctly. You check up on the selections, the right selections being delivered, being installed. I mean, could you imagine somebody chooses grey tiles and then they come and then they put in brown tiles? Is that part of your role, checking up?
So again, over the last few years, things have changed a lot. Depending on the Kablan, you have to make an appointment to come in to see the apartment. They don't it used to be, I've been in Israel for 30 years. We've bought 2 new homes here, from the Kablan. You could just show up on a Friday and go into your place.
Or a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Nobody even asked you a thing.
Nachon.
Nowadays, you cannot just walk onto a building site. You have to make an appointment.
Especially with the security situation.
You have to make an appointment. They have to give you a helmet. You have to sign. But yes, I make an appointment. I come in when I'm allowed to make sure they've put in the right flooring. They've put in the right tiles in the bathroom. They've put in the points where they were supposed to if there was a change.
So that's a very important part of your role, is to ensure that not only the selections are made, but that the selections are delivered and installed.
Yes.
And you also touched on taking possession. So let's fast forward. The apartment has been purchased. You made all the selections. It's been built. And after 2, 3, 4, however many years, B'shat Tova, Mazal Tov, you are ready. You get a message that you're ready to come and take possession of your new apartment. You have to make the final payment, but they're not in the country. What happens? And I'm not going to talk about the engineer inspection, because we're going to do that next week.
Fine. Okay. So we've passed the engineer inspection. Everything has been ticked off. They have to give me ipoi koach. They have to give me
a power of attorney.
Thank you very much. And I basically go sit with Kablan's office and I take the keys. I sign off for it in their names, and that's it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit now, even though it's not really, it's a little bit off topic, but since you're here and I want to understand more about what you do, once somebody's taken the keys, and again, they're not in the country or they're planning to come, I know that you continue your services through like a property management service. So tell us a little bit about that, what you do in the case of a new home and moving forward.
So after they've got the keys, depending on what the needs are of the client, I have clients that have bought a home in Israel and they just want it for themselves, their family, maybe friends.
Just to enjoy for trips.
Yes. So I manage their property. What does that include? That includes coming in to check their apartment twice a month.
One second, I'm sorry. Before that, they've taken possession of a brand new apartment. It has empty, bare walls. What happens next?
So if they want it to be furnished and they want my help in furnishing it and they can't get here, I can start looking for them for furniture. I have quite a few shops that I buy things from. Again, it works on WhatsApp. We can choose everything.
Furniture, beds, appliances.
Everything. From closets to kitchenware to appliances to couches,
Fantastic.
dining room table.
What a great service.
Everything.
Fantastic.
And obviously, I always advise if they can come for a week, we could do it in a week. I will do the homework in advance. That way we know a little bit in advance where to go. And yeah, we go shopping.
Fantastic.
And then I'm here to get all the deliveries, get the apartment cleaned.
What about carpentry?
Also, I have carpenters. Depending again on the person's budget.
And if they had picked a kitchen from an outside supplier and now they've taken possession, now it's time to put the kitchen in. Do you work with that as well?
Of course, I coordinate everything.
You coordinate it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so that's like the earlier stage of taking possession. You set the apartment up with the furniture, with the fittings, with the appliances, all the cabinets and carpentry, and now the place is ready to be lived in. So tell us a little bit about the maintenance and the management of the property.
Well, if the client is not planning on moving to Israel and they are going to be living overseas and the apartment here is empty, but they're going to be using it a few times a year, they do need someone. I would highly advise, it doesn't have to be me, but a person to come in to check. It's so important that someone else has the key and someone is looking over it. I've had this before, a burst pipe from an upstairs neighbor that's leaked into the apartment downstairs, causing damage.
And if nobody's there, you wouldn't know about it. Right. And they wouldn't know about it upstairs.
And the other way around, I've had an apartment that I take care of that has had a leak that's gone in downstairs. An apartment had a very slow leak from a toilet dripping into the downstairs that we weren't unaware of. The water was actually off, but because the water still is in the toilet, it had dripped downstairs, which was fine. It had to be the downstairs neighbor also goes away and they don't have someone actually watching their apartment. And it was whatever, we took care of it, but it's so important to have someone come in.
Sure.
I take care of the bills, set up the standing orders. Happens to be a few things in Israel. You can't do a standing order.
Like automatic payments.
Yeah, with an American credit card or a foreign credit card with Chevra Chashmal,
the electricity company.
So I do all those things.
Take care
of the insurance. And then get the apartment ready when they're going to come.
Wow.
When my clients come.
How do you have time for anything else? This is a full-time job.
It's running. It's not just running my house. It's running 10 other people's houses.
Unbelievable. Well, you have to have a certain personality, and you're certainly very calm. Not like me. Didn't get the same genes.
Yeah. If I could say one other thing, is that it sounds very daunting and sounds very scary when someone buys an apartment from overseas and the language and how we're going to do this. It's so possible to do this.
Especially when you have somebody holding your hand.
When someone's with you. And I personally, I do not charge a lot of money. Right. I do it. I really do. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy meeting people, and everyone that I've ever helped has become my friend. Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
beautiful. And I don't want to talk about your rates here because it's not the time or place. But whatever it is, it sounds like it's a worthwhile service.
That's my point.
And it saves you so much time and headache and energy, and makes the process more enjoyable. Which it should be. It should be. You're buying a home in Israel, which is so exciting. And yes, it shouldn't be scary. And people talk a lot about, getting ripped off from this person and this person. And it isn't like that. It really doesn't have to be like that. Beautiful. Color covered. Okay, Gab, before we end, I have to ask you, where in Israel do you live? And what do you like most about living there?
I live in Bet Shemesh, not Ramat Bet Shemesh. I'm sorry to any Ramat Bet Shemesh
Very
listeners.
Important that we hear that.
And I live in the Nofei Aviv neighborhood. What do I love about it? I love my neighbors and my friends.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really beautiful. I hope they're all listening to you and sharing the podcast. And finally, if you were to move to a different area in the country, where would you go and why?
The $1 million question. I really like the sea, so I think I would move next to the sea. But my husband really likes Yerushalayim, so we're not moving anywhere. We're not moving anywhere. But I know I like the sea and I like beautiful views.
Oh, lovely. Well, Bet Shemesh has beautiful views.
Yeah, so we have the views,
right?
But we don't have the sea.
We don't have the sea, but it's not that far away. Was it half an hour?
No, it's fine.
Not too bad.
Nothing is far away from the sea in Israel.
Okay, well, Gabi, thank you so much. Mum and Dad will be very proud of us that we got through a 45-minute conversation without having almost any arguments. And really, I appreciate your time and sharing with all of our listeners the amazing work you do. It really is a fantastic service. And as Gabi says, it's something that can be enjoyable. It shouldn't be so overwhelming. And Bezrat Hashem, I hope for all of you that you'll be able to do this very soon. Thank you for listening and join us again very soon. Thank you for listening to On the House. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and share it with your family and friends. You can also visit buyitinisrael.com, where you can find news, market updates, guidance, and much more on real estate in Israel. That's Buy It in Israel, BUYIT in Israel.com. If you have a question or a specific topic you'd like us to cover on this podcast, please email us at the address you'll find at the bottom of the show notes. Whether you're thinking about Aliyah, looking for a home or a haven, or wanting to support the Israeli economy, now is the time to buy it in Israel.